Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Doing My Homework. So today the assignment was good versus evil, and that was pretty much all we got. Pretty broad topic, to say the least, I guess. And I was kind of struggling with what I wanted to do, but I decided basically that I was going to do sprites. I keep calling them sprites, but I guess they're just like creatures, I guess, is what I wanted them to be, in probably like a bigger fantasy world or something like that, because, you know, I really enjoy fantasy, obviously. I have a whole comic. So I wanted to do something like that. And for the good character, I wanted them to be very plant-based. If you see my references on the side, that's kind of what I was going off of, trying to get like plant-like, like in tone with nature, I think. That's the kind of look I was going for, and I was at first kind of leaning towards maybe like more towards like a white look, with like pale yellows and stuff like that, and that's kind of why oh my gosh, I'm stumbling over my words. I kind of wanted to go originally my thought process was maybe going more towards angelic look, and I think that would have been cool juxtaposed to like the skeletal face, because I wanted to keep that in. And so I was thinking, oh, that would be like angelic but angel, but like skeletal. So I thought that would be a cool concept to mess with, but later on I decided that that wasn't the path I wanted to go down, and I wanted to go a little bit more like earthy and naturistic, I guess. Is that even a word? Naturistic? I don't know. So that's kind of what I was going for. Her pose is pretty simple. I think it's really cute though. I think it shows off a little bit of personality. The dress, I'm not too happy with it and how it turns out in the end. How I originally sketched this, because I sketched another idea which I'll show on screen, and how I originally had it, it was a little bit more poofier, and one of my first thoughts that I was thinking of was doing a skirt that was kind of like, what is it called? Like papel picado. That's kind of what I wanted and what I was thinking of doing. I'll show an example of what it was. And I was thinking of maybe leaning towards that, adding just like a little bit of flair in that direction, and maybe having it be like, you know, like a sugar skull aspect to it, but then I decided not to go that route because I really like the fantasy aspect and I wanted to keep that more into it. I mean, obviously if I had done sugar skulls that would also be kind of fantasy as well, but yeah. So onto the coloring. I wanted to, you know, keep some yellows in there because I was kind of leaning towards like, again, like an angelic sort of palette, but then I really wanted those greens because I really like the green colors, and again I wanted to keep it more rooted into like traditional fantasy, so I wanted to do like fantasy style colors, and keep it very much like more foresty feeling than anything else. I did color this coat brown at first, but I do change it later because I did not like the way it looked with all the colors like overlapping each other. I'm adding a little bit more details in the shoes, so that way it has a little bit of details because they look a little bit plain. And yeah. I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with detailing. I've been experimenting a lot with more line work, and adding lines and details into my drawings because I really like detailed work, but I haven't fully grasped like how to do it, so I've been experimenting with it a little bit more in my art recently, where I've added more lines here and there to just give it a little bit more texture to it. And then for the hair, I really liked how the hair looked. Originally she wasn't going to have any hair, but I really like the way that this came out. It looks similar to vines, and using the 3 different colors within her hair really gives it a life, I guess. I think it gives it a lot more shading and a lot more dynamic, and it looks a lot better. For the colors of the dress, I did kind of pick them myself. I did use one from the reference, and then from there I kind of built off of it. I wanted to go for like a mossy look, and I know it doesn't really look like it right now, and so later I add a little bit more to it, to her design. I wanted the color for the legs to be like leggings, but then I ended up changing that as well because I thought it was too dark and I didn't think it read very well, so I changed the color in the end, so it ends up being different. I really like the flower on her head. I think she looks really cute. She looks almost like a lily pad and it's like really cool. So here I'm just kind of adding the details, trying to figure out what I wanted to do for the rest of the coloration. Usually when I draw skeletal heads, I don't have like a physical body. Like I've drawn gray and bones before and they're just bones, so I've never really done like physical hands for them, I guess. So this was a bit interesting and I was kind of debating how I wanted to color it, so I decided to keep the skin color similar to how the bone color would be. And here I'm adding more moss and a little bit more details to like the dresses because I wanted it to seem like she's made out of nature, and I added a little butterfly in there. And I wanted to add like vines just to add to like her feeling like maybe she came, like I wanted to seem like she could literally just pop out of like the ground. If this was like a series or like, you know, a show or something, like she could just wake up from like the ground and then like go walking around and going on adventures and stuff. So here I'm just adding like the little final touches to it to just really sell it. I really wanted to get the idea like her dress is made out of moss or grass and like have those little plants growing off of her, just to kind of like really tie in that like Mother Nature kind of feel, I guess. And then I did the little floor just to give her some grounding for the environment, just to see what she was in and add a little bit more to it. This one definitely is designed a little bit better than I think my second one is. I feel like my second one is was a little bit rushed, but I'll talk more about that when I get to it. I think adding the little accents like the clovers and the vines actually really elevated the character a little bit more than it was before, because she was kind of plain looking, so I think adding that was a good choice. I was kind of rushed to do this because I did kind of do it the day before it was due, even though I had sketched the idea, but I wasn't really sure how I wanted to take it in fully, so it was a little bit rushed, I will say. So I'm very surprised on how it ended up looking. I actually went in and did some coloring for the line art as well. That's another thing I've been experimenting with recently, because I think I've always really liked the use of colored line art. I feel like it always elevates a piece, but again, it's not something that I've used a lot in my own artwork, and it's something that I'm still kind of getting used to, but I think it does help, and I do want to learn how to use it more, and I feel like it really did help this piece because it just helped blend it in. And then I wanted to add a little bit more. Her face still seemed a little bit not it seemed a little bit too dark for me, so I added some gold hearts into her eyes to kind of like add to her look of being like a nice character, and she is supposed to be like the good character, so I wanted to really hone that in with that. Here I'm just doing some regular shading, trying to get those shapes in, and I actually really like how the shading looks. I really needed to work on the shading for the moss because it kind of just looked like stains, and I was showing my friend, and for like the longest time she was just saying like the moss looked like stains, and I agree. I don't really have like the texture of moss all the way down yet. That's something I definitely need to work on. Here I'm adding some blush to her skull. I think it's cool like some dimension in the skull a little bit. And I'm just like fixing up the shading and stuff. I really liked how the shading ended up looking on her. I think it was really nice. And some highlights. The highlights, I messed up real quick right there. I was putting it on the shaded side. I do need to work on my highlights a little bit, but I think for some aspects of it, it was pretty well done. But yeah, so here is my good person, or my good character. And now on to the evil character. So there are my references there on the side. I wanted this character to be kind of like the opposite of the good character. So while the good character is like super nature, like green, flourishing, flowers and stuff like that, I wanted this character to be very dark. I wanted to have like lava, like reds, and I was struggling a lot with this piece, and part of the reason was because I didn't have a lot of time to sketch it, because again I did this one very rushed, and I actually spent more time with the good character than I did the evil character. So the evil character was definitely a little bit more rushed, and I'm not upset with how it turns out in the end, but I feel like if I spent more time messing with it, I could have gone it and made it a little bit better. But you know, it is for a homework assignment, so when the due date's there, due date's there. So it is what it is in the end of the day. And I don't think it was a bad turnout, but I do wish that I had spent a little bit more time on it. So one of the things that I wanted to focus on with this character is I wanted to give, like I said, like a lava look or like a fiery look. And originally, when I was brainstorming the concept with a friend, we had talked about having like lava exploding from their head, and I had tried doing that previously, but it didn't really work out very well. And it kind of, I was trying to see, well, maybe I can make the lava look like hair, and I tried making it look like a bun and like having it explode and stuff, but it just wasn't doing the job. So I ended up going with this and having like the lava underneath the skull. And in the sketch you can't really tell, but later on I'll talk about it, you'll see it like kind of lights up from the inside. For this one, I really wanted to like focus on like that cloak shape. I don't know, I really liked the way that the cloaks looked. I don't really think it's like menacing, but I do think it looks like powerful. Like I feel like it brings like a different presence. I do wish that I kind of made it a little bit more pointed, and I wanted to use a lot more sharper edges than I ended up with. A lot of them is a lot more smoother than I wanted to. But I do think that the contrast when you see them side by side, this character is a lot darker, and the color usage I was relying very heavily on. And I think the first character, the good character that I did, you can like just automatically tell right away that it's a good character based on like the pose and like the color palette, the design. It has a lot of soft designs, like a lot of soft rounded features, whereas this one, it's a little bit ambiguous. Like they could be a villain, but it's kind of like they also could be a morally gray character. Like it isn't screaming evil, which I think is a little bit disappointing. It's a little bit of a letdown. I feel like I let myself down a little bit on that aspect, but I also am not mad at it. I do think that it is a decent character design, but I do really wish that I had more time. I was really struggling with this one. I had like 3 to 4 different iterations before I landed on this one, because it was like 1 a.m. and I needed to turn something in, so I just wanted to finish it and get it done with. So I do kind of, I'm kind of like beating myself up on that one a little bit. I really wish I had spent more time with it. And if you ever try this out yourself, I really recommend it. I think it's really cool to pay attention to the different types of designs and shapes and character aspects that go into character design. So I do think that this was a really fun challenge to do, and I definitely recommend trying it yourself, because it's really cool just to see what you can come up with, because it's such a broad spectrum of like what you can do, like good and evil. And I actually talked to my professor about it before starting the project, because I didn't know what direction I wanted to go in. I was just like, this is the only prompt we have is good and evil. Like that's a really broad spectrum you can go on. And so he actually told me that originally the project was an angel versus like devil kind of project, and it ended up just turning into, you know, designing angels and devils. And so he didn't really like that, and everyone was kind of giving out the same thing. It was like slight variations, but all pretty much the same stuff. So he broadened it a little bit more, and I'm kind of glad he did, because a lot of the examples that he showed in class were very, very different, and there's really cool aspects of like expression and stuff, and like design elements. Some people really had good uses of shape. I wish I could show you their work, but I didn't ask anyone if I could share their work. But it's really cool when you get to see like the different uses of character design in elements and like put that to use. I wish I had done a little bit more with this one, and as we were going through the different projects, I realized that this character doesn't have strong expressions, and even like their pose seems a little gentle, like the way that they're like cupping like the butterfly in front of them. Like I feel like that's very gentle, and it doesn't really scream evil or villainous to me. And I was kind of like panicking while I was presenting. I was like, oh no, well, because I was seeing all the other ones that had stronger expressions and stronger emotions, and I was like, oh no, mine doesn't have that, and I was freaking out a little bit. But I do think it was a good design in the end. So here you see that I really wanted to like hone in on the colors, and the color palette for this one is what sold it pretty much. So I wanted to make the skull completely different and kind of be like an opposite of what the good character was, like I said. So the good character had a lot of greens, and it had a lot of like brighter colors, so I wanted to have brighter and softer colors. So they were kind of not muted, but they were a little bit like, well, I guess muted, and they're not as saturated as this one was. So I wanted to use a lot of saturated colors, a lot of dark colors. Originally I wanted to make their cloak all black, because I was like, ooh, you know, having it be all black and dark and broody. But then I was like, I kind of wanted to have their body be silhouetted, so I wasn't really sure how dark I wanted that coat to be as well, because it felt like it was just kind of muting itself. And then I was trying to use a different color red for the accents on the sleeves, but I changed that later because I don't really know why I chose that color. I think I was just trying to like, it was kind of late and I was just trying to rush through it, but it looks really weird, especially like right up against that. So I do end up changing that later and going back to saturate it a little bit more. I really wanted to sell like the lava look without outright having lava on there, but I wanted to give that fiery look from it. So I do go back and change it, because right now it's not really giving that like lava fiery look that I had wanted. So I do go back and mess around with it a little bit more, which I'm glad I did, because I think it turns out better in the end. So here I am kind of blocking off the colors. I wanted to be like a gradient almost. I did mess up the type of like the color placement, so I did go back and fix that, but I had to go and change it because I wanted it to, I did it backwards and I was mixing up the colors. But I wanted to be kind of like his head is where like the hottest light is, and then as you go further away from it, it starts cooling off and getting darker. And so that's kind of the look that I was going for with that. So that's how the progression of the colors go. And here I am changing the saturation of it, because again, I don't know why I put such a desaturated color. I think my brain automatically works in like more desaturated. I noticed that in my art a lot, that I don't really use the most saturated colors, which I'm trying to change and trying to get better with, because I do think that saturated colors have like a really strong impact. I mean, that's the whole point of them. And I don't really work with a lot of saturated colors, so I definitely think that that's something I want to improve in my art a little bit. And I think it really helped this piece specifically. I feel like those reds really jump out, despite the color palette being mostly reds. I feel like it does help the piece overall. And here I am fixing the shading. It was kind of hard to shade this, I will say, because a lot of the colors were dark, so it was hard to get it to be darker, or some of the yellows were changing color when I was adding the shading on top of it, so it kind of like muted it a little bit and made it blend a little bit too much. So I think I could have done a little bit better job with the shading here, but overall I don't think it was too bad of a job. And then just highlighted it with some yellow to add to that like glowing effect, I guess. I think I also messed up the lighting on this one, but it's fine. It was late, okay? My 1 a.m. brain was not working at its best. I was super tired and kind of rushing this one a little bit, but for what it is, I think it was pretty good. I think they both turned out really nice. And here they are sitting next to each other, or standing next to each other. I got some pretty good feedback for these. I definitely think that there was some parts that I could have gone stronger, but I think overall I did a pretty good job. If I could revisit the evil character, then I would probably want to redo that one, but I think that they work very well together. I got some feedback saying that they look like they come from like the same universe, and like you know, they're like one of them's like a boss battle, and like the good character is like going on a quest to go defeat them, or like, you know, something like that. So I do think that I did a pretty okay job. My professor also thought so, and on the last one I did get an A, so you know, I'll update you guys on the next homework assignment I do, and see if I got an A on this one. But yeah, if you want to try this out yourself, the prompt is basically just good and evil characters, and it would be awesome to see what you guys come up with. If you do try this for yourself, let me know. I share it on the Discord or any other social media, tag me so I can see it. It's really cool to practice character design. And this class has done a lot to help me kind of like pay attention more to my aspects and just help me try to figure out a little bit more of what I'm doing. And it's cool to share it with you guys as well. Not only because it gives me free video ideas, but also because it's cool to just share assignments from class and let you guys know this is what I'm learning and taking in my class and sharing it with you guys, so you have an opportunity to do it yourself without having to pay the thousands of dollars that it takes to go to college. So, you know, free things are cool and it's good practice. So I really encourage you guys to try it out yourself. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe, you know, to see more content, see me do more homework assignments. And yeah, so I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.